When I went to the bridge, it was a life-changing experience for me. I grew up in a pretty middle-class family in Champlin, Minnesota, and my father was an alcoholic, and he was pretty abusive. As I got older, that's when the sexual abuse started. I actually had a friend that came and stayed. I was 15 at the time. I was a junior in high school. My dad was particularly bad that night, and she told a teacher. The teacher pulled me aside and talked to me, and I think I just was scared. I didn't know what it was to have somebody realize that something was wrong, because my entire family, extended family, knew what my life was like, but nobody had ever said anything. He had me talk to one of the counselors at school, and they brought in social services. The day that social services contacted my parents, I still had to go home on the bus. When I got home that day, my mom said that I would have to tell my dad what I had done. She said multiple times, "This is just going to make him angry." And so I threw a bunch of things in a bag and went to my aunt. And after a few days there, I was told that I would have to go to juvenile detention as a runaway if I didn't go home. So that's how I ended up at the bridge. I think had I gone home at that point and not gotten on that path of some direction and some hope and realizing that things didn't have to be the way they were, I didn't deserve for things to be the way they were, I know I wouldn't be here today. It was the first time that I actually felt safe. And I don't think I really ever knew what that was. Everybody at the bridge had some ability to look into every person's strength. It was just an ability of the staff to point out, you know, anything ahead is nothing. You're alive. You can make it. You can make it. If you can make it through this, you can make it through anything. That's what saved me. It was a specific counselor that he was just persistent and genuinely, I could feel that he genuinely just cared about what was happening, and he worked really hard to get information from me and to help me realize that I didn't deserve to be where I was at, and that it wasn't normal and it wasn't fair. And I remember one day when I really had opened up to him, I remember him asking me, "What do you need to do to feel better?" And I wanted to run, and he knew right where to take me. I remember going in the van and going to a lake, and he sat on the park bench while I ran. And then he loaded me back in the van and brought me back, and he didn't discuss anything on the way there. He knew I just needed my space and I needed to be quiet, and I remember sitting in the van and feeling like it was almost hard to know that it wasn't going to be like that for very long. It was a feeling that it was odd to me. I couldn't sleep. I remember laying there thinking, this is just weird. I don't know if I should like this, because it's just not normal. By the time I left there, I was sleeping all night, which I had never done. And really feeling like what I thought and what I felt meant something, and that my opinion counted, and that even if I had to go home, I still knew that they were there. I knew that if it got to be more than I could handle, that I could go back, or I could call somebody. And that was the first time I'd ever felt that. I don't remember ever feeling like somebody cared. Yeah, I felt safe. And I didn't ever call the bridge. I didn't ever go back. But the only reason that I didn't go back is because I had some tools to work with when I left. I knew how to get through it and how to survive. I remember the counselor explaining to me that he knew that I could manage it, that it would be fine. No matter what happened, I would be fine. Because if I had survived everything I'd already survived, that it was just another hill to climb, and he had no doubt that I could survive it. And I think I've gone back to that many, many times in my life. When my husband passed away, more times than I can think of. I can get through all of it. And the only reason I know that is because somebody taught it to me. Somebody took the time to teach me that I have strength. I could actually do it on my own. I could make my own choices. I could be the person that fixed it, that could make it through. As my life goes along, being in my 40s and having a child that's a year younger than I was when I went to the bridge, I look at him and all the time I feel so much pride because he's been through the hardships of losing his dad at 8 and then moving in with my boyfriend and his son, and he lived in the same place for most of his life. And I uprooted him and brought him to a different city, a different school. But I can always look at him and say, you can get through this because you lost your dad when you were 8 years old. And I know that I would never be able to say that to him or have that skill or that tool to tell him that had I not had somebody teach me that if I can get through what I went through as a child, then I can get through anything. And I think you need those tools when you're young. You need them when you're a teenager. And that's when I was given those tools, and that's what saved me.